I was thinking about ESG the other day, and I have been doing ESG since I began my work 30 years ago, because it's about environmental, social, and governance. And I could see all of those environmental issues. I could see the social impacts. I could see, for me, governance was the lack of leadership, the lack of transparency, the lack of, oh my gosh, we have a problem and we need to deal with it and not push it down the line. So I was doing ESG way back when. I just didn't know it would have an acronym, ESG.
De spirale d'utilité, on a été dans une société peut-être trop matérialiste à un moment. C'est-à-dire qu'on s'est trop intéressé à la production pour la production. Produire, consommer, produire, consommer, produire. Voilà, on est allé trop loin. Et bien maintenant, il faut un peu se poser, se calmer, et puis regarder comment on peut rééquilibrer tout ça. Voilà.
So, true story, my son comes home and he goes, Mom and Dad, you have to go see this movie called Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. And I was like, what are you talking about, Jordan? And he goes, Mom, you and Dad need to go see this movie. It's really important. And when I saw it, it clicked for me. It clicked. I said, oh my goodness, this climate change is going to be so strategic for every company in the world.
Where we are today is a moment in time where the C-suite and boards of directors of all major corporations in the world realize it's time to do something about it. We have to get involved. It's business critical for us.
ESG is now absolutely across the whole C-suite accountability. I think when you look at carbon and sustainability overall, it's probably one of the largest disruptions to society, but also to our businesses. I think science has finally demonstrated that there's causality between some of the impacts that our business cause and the impact to planet.
It's making change happen. It's making change happen for good reasons and for positive outcomes.
It's fundamentally, all about value generation, and it's all about giving purpose and meaning to work. We all have a choice where we go to work and where we spend most of our waking hours. And I think, like most people, I want to work somewhere where the work has purpose and meaning, where we're solving big global problems. And ESG is all about that.
ESG is actually a transformation accelerant. You cannot have true, long-term, sustainable business success today if you don't integrate ESG as a critical component of measurement.
We operate under an innovation-driven growth model. And so over the last several years, what we have seen is all of our innovation is being driven by sustainability needs. And so our sustainability strategy and our innovation strategy has become one. My vision is that from a corporate strategy perspective, the ESG framework really governs everything we do, from how we innovate to how we operate and how we build the culture of the organization overall.
Our business strategy is to be in markets that have strong secular drivers. So markets that are guided by megatrends. From that perspective, sustainability is a megatrend that is guiding a lot of our businesses. We publish a statistic that, based on 12 months of work, that says that 60% of the revenue that we derive is derived from products and services that contribute to sustainable outcomes for our customers.
I think one of the biggest challenges is that people think ESG, it sort of feels like a tsunami coming at them, and they don't know exactly what to do.
You have a lot of different regulation that can be discordant. So you're kind of grabbing, at things. It's actually, if I was going to think of something, you're juggling. You're ultimately juggling but you can't stop.
The evolution of ESG over the last 5 years has been tremendous. The pace of change has been, I think, hard for many people to sort of keep up with.
The landscape is changing so quickly, right? And so the number of issues continue to grow, and the nuances of those individual issues are certainly getting more complex.
ESG is changing at the speed of light today. It is constantly evolving, and you have to stay on top of everything.
If you go back 5 years, especially if you go back 10 years, you can just look at that curve and the number of regulations and rules that are impacting ESG and disclosures and what companies should be doing and shouldn't be doing. Just absolutely gone through the roof in the last 5 years.
If you were to sit back and look at some of the regulatory and compliance checklists and all the different metrics that you can be evaluated on, you know, there's hundreds of things that you could potentially be evaluated on today. It's a lot of questions, a lot of moving parts.
It's just gotten so much more visibility. There's so many more stakeholders and so many more people interested in what companies are doing from the standpoint of ESG.
Consumers and investors, they want to build trust. They want to make sure that they are partnering with the right organizations. And they don't want to buy goods and services for anyone. They want to buy organizations that they are not only delivering great goods and services, but in the process of doing that, they are not creating unintended consequences, like, for example, killing the planet.
Greenwashing is a really sort of dynamic topic right now. We've seen some very high-profile examples of that just recently in Europe. You know, I think if you aren't kind of walking the walk, if you're making exaggerated claims, if you're kind of getting ahead of your ski tips from a narrative standpoint as an organization, you're going to be called out, and rightly so. You're going to be seen as inauthentic. And so when you're trying to, you know, retain employees, attract employees, if you're B2C, you know, your consumer base is going to care very much about this. You know, the reputation piece is huge.
So I think that companies that still want to try to cheat the system, and you know what, that's, I think, like societal. There's always going to be somebody out there that wants to cheat a system, which is what I think Gen Z understands. I'm watching you, and I'm not going to get comfortable with your position. Frankly, I'm not sure I trust you, and they're going to stay on top of it.
Well, I think in this journey of really embedding ESG in everything we do, skills gap is one of the fundamental challenges. We recognize that there are certain skills that we are needing today that we still don't have.
You know, it's very interesting what is happening in the ESG workforce, right? I am very well connected online, so I see lots and lots of ESG jobs all the time that are posted. And sometimes they're posted and reposted and reposted. So I do believe that there is a talent gap here.
So the ESG skills gap, it's real. It's, in a way, it's a positive. It means that there is high demand of ESG expertise. And you see a lot of consulting firms trying to train up armies of ESG experts today. The problem is, it doesn't happen overnight. Finding the comfort to move ahead on these issues and trying to find out where to source that expertise is a real challenge.
Governance is essential to ESG. It's like your check and balance, right? It is making sure that you're doing what you're saying, making sure that we're focusing on the right things.
Governance, I think, is being portrayed as a bureaucratic layer which can slow down an organization. I think the way I see governance is almost the opposite. If I use the analogy of a sports car, governance are like the brakes of the car. They are not designed to slow down the car, but actually they are designed to help the car go faster safely.
Within the first year of this company, we built ESG into the foundation. And how have we done that? Well, the board of directors and our CEO and president, Martin Schroeder, decided that when they built this company, it would have environmental social governance. So there's a committee, the board has goals, directives, we have KPIs, and it's aligned with actually even our bonus structure. So that thought process in terms of building the company and including it in our DNA has been critical.
There really is no way to successfully implement an ESG program without, in my opinion, having all of the leaders of the company on board and understanding what their role can be.
I think it's really important in any company that the CEO really has to own what the organization needs to do around ESG. It can't be, allocated to another area of the company that's isolated. It also can't be separated from business goals. It has to be identified as a key element of business success. It's also the CEO's responsibility to surround themselves with a diverse group of leaders, both thought leaders, business leaders, that also embrace what it is the company needs to do around ESG. And that has to filter down throughout the organization and ultimately be lived culturally from the bottom up. That's the only way to ensure alignment and ultimately contribute to business success.
There's so many examples of companies who have started with this vision, executed it, and actually are more profitable. And to me, that's really important, right? It's the vision of the leadership in the company to say, this is what we're going to do, and do it.
I think what's really important at the C-suite level is an understanding about sort of where the organization is, where it's going from sort of a sustainability standpoint, how you're going to get there together and why, and what is it you're trying to accomplish. Because fundamentally, if your C-suite isn't lockstep in kind of the narrative and the storytelling around that, you're not going to be able to sort of bring the organization along. So I think being able to kind of set the vision at the C-suite level for the sustainability journey is critically important.
The perception that ESG is separate from corporate strategy, that sustainability and ESG are separate from risk management. That's an obstacle. We're making great progress there. We formed a corporate ESG committee about 5 years ago and brought together investor relations, corporate finance, risk management, environmental services, DEI, the chief diversity officer is part of that, and corporate communications. We brought together, and legal from a governance perspective. So we brought together all the disciplines that are showing up in ESG in some way so that we can keep our finger on the pulse of, what's going on, and then we can manage it better inside the business.
You can boil the ocean with your ESG efforts, but not having a more focused impact on what's important to you will result in the complexity that's out there in the ESG world overwhelming all of your efforts.
I think doing that materiality assessment with frequency, given how dynamic the environment is right now, is critical. So it used to be that companies did a materiality assessment once every 3 years, once every 5 years, if they did one at all. Now we're doing materiality assessments every single quarter because, again, our portfolio is changing, our customers are changing, our business is changing, the regulations are changing, the expectations are changing, our investor base is changing. So, you really have to be prioritizing based on that materiality assessment. And again, if you just try to do everything, you're not going to do anything well, and you're not going to be generating true value across the organization.
ESG is such a critical matter that cannot be fully outsourced outside the business. It's so tied to the future success of an organization that has to be owned ultimately by the board, but then the C-suite, and then the rest of the organization.
The question about, do you insource or outsource the capability? I mean, I'm a heavy believer that you have to have that capability inside. And the reason is I don't see ESG as something that you're just doing to ensure you align with regulation. ESG is now the heart of the strategy of corporations.
ESG absolutely has to be enabled through technology to accelerate the outcomes that we want.
Technology allows for powerful analysis of large sets of information. That's humanly impossible. So it enables you, it supercharges your teams to have all that information at their fingertips.
We have limited resources, we have limited time, we have limited energy. Technology can help us to sharpen our focus and to prioritize more effectively what are the better strategies to address the conflicting priorities that we are many times facing.
I think as ESG evolves and becomes more complex, having an ESG-oriented tech stack is going to become increasingly important to both track and manage what you're doing with ESG, as well as provide you with the expertise necessary to understand where you are on your path to your goal and how you can get to the finish line.
There's no one size fits all for technology. So it's that tech stack, that layered view of tech tools that companies need to be able to do ESG and sustainability disclosure effectively, efficiently, and most importantly, accurately.
I think it's important to approach ESG in a smart way. And, what is the smart way to ESG? I think that is really knowing what your goals are, being realistic about what you can and can't achieve in a certain time frame. That is what future-proofing is, right?
I think it's very difficult for me to give advice to anyone, but things that have worked for me is, first of all, remember that you are not alone. You are not alone on this journey. We have been in this journey, we have made many mistakes. So in fact, by connecting with your network could be a fantastic way to start. You can avoid some of the mistakes that we have made. So don't feel overwhelmed, but actually go for it. Second is be proactive and be focused. The challenge that we are facing is not to create a system, but actually is to remove certain outcomes. Therefore, time matters. Anything that you can do to accelerate is better to have 80% today than 100% tomorrow. So please focus on that. And then finally, I think this could be an extraordinary, fulfilling opportunity. We have huge power in an organization. What are you using that power for? Are you using that power just to collect profits the following quarter? Or are you using that power to create sustainable value generation as well as protecting the planet? So this could be a fantastic opportunity. You are not alone. And the best step is to take a step today rather than procrastinating to tomorrow.
Je crois en une évolution de notre économie au XXIe siècle. Je dis souvent, la transformation qui est en train de vivre ce monde ressemble pour moi à la transformation que le monde a connue au XVIe et au XVIIe siècle, quand on est passé du Moyen-Âge à la Renaissance. On a mis certaines priorités en amont, et notamment celle des droits humains, de la liberté, etc. Eh bien, nous sommes maintenant un peu dans la même période.
We have to look at companies. Companies are people. And all the people out here that we're all going to feel the effects of environmental impacts and what happens at a social level, and how good governance and good leadership could change the tide.